In the small, bustling town of Suryanagar, there lived a young woman named Aarti. She was known throughout the village for her kind heart, but beneath her gentle exterior was a soul burdened by doubt and confusion. Life had not been easy for her. Aarti had grown up in a poor family, and despite her best efforts, her life seemed to be filled with obstacles that felt insurmountable. She often felt that no matter how hard she worked, she was always a step behind. Aarti had recently lost her father, a man who had been her rock. He had passed away from a long illness, and her heart felt as though it had been shattered into a million pieces. She could still hear his words echoing in her mind. No matter what, always have faith, Aarti. God is always with us, even when we can't see him. But now, without him, she struggled to feel that presence. One day, as Aarti sat by the window of her small home, gazing out at the setting sun, a deep sense of hopelessness filled her. Where is God? She whispered to herself. Why have I been left to struggle so much? Why do I feel so alone? She felt an emptiness within her that nothing seemed to fill. The words of comfort her father had shared with her seemed distant, like a forgotten dream. That evening, as the stars twinkled above and the village grew quieter, Aarti decided to do something she had never done before. Something that deep down she knew she needed. She took out a piece of paper and a pen and began to write a letter to God. Dear God, I don't know where to begin. My heart is heavy and my mind is filled with questions that I can't seem to answer. I've always been taught to trust you, to have faith, and to believe that you are with me through all things. But right now, I'm struggling. I don't feel your presence. I feel lost and unsure of where my life is headed. Every day seems to be a battle. The loss of my father is a pain I can't explain. It feels like a hole in my heart that nothing can fill. I try to be strong, but sometimes it feels like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. Why do bad things happen, God? Why do we have to endure so much pain and suffering? I know you are a loving God, but sometimes I wonder if you've forgotten me. I need your guidance, your comfort. Please show me the way. I've been searching for answers, but all I find is silence. I try to pray, but my words feel empty. Please, God, hear me. Help me to understand. Show me that you are still with me, even when I don't feel it. Please help me find peace. Help me find hope again. I want to believe, I want to trust, but I need your help. With all my heart, Aarti folded the letter, her tears staining the paper, and placed it under her pillow that night. She didn't expect an answer. She wasn't even sure what kind of answer she was hoping for, but somehow the act of writing the letter gave her a sense of release. For the first time in a long while, she felt a small glimmer of peace in her heart. The following morning, Aarti woke up to the sound of a soft knock on her door. She opened it to find an elderly woman standing there holding a basket filled with fresh vegetables. The woman, whose name was Meera, was a long-time neighbor, known for her wisdom and kindness. She had always taken an interest in Aarti's well-being, and today she brought a gift of food for her. Good morning, Aarti Minilete, Meera said, her eyes warm and full of compassion. I thought you might need some fresh vegetables. I know times have been tough for you lately. Aarti smiled faintly and accepted the basket. Thank you, Meera. It's very kind of you. As they stood in the doorway, Meera noticed Aarti's tired eyes and weary expression. Aarti, my dear, she said gently, I can see that you are carrying a heavy burden. You have been through much and I know your heart is hurting. But I want to remind you of something important. Aarti listened closely, her heart aching but open to Meera's words. Faith, my dear, is not about always feeling that God is right beside you. It is about knowing, even in the silence, that He is there. Sometimes God speaks to us through the quiet moments, through the kindness of others, through the beauty of nature, and even through our own hearts. Don't be discouraged, Aarti. You may not see the answers right away, but trust that God hears your prayers. Aarti blinked in surprise. How do you know? Meera smiled softly. Sometimes, we don't need to see the answers immediately. Faith is like planting a seed. You may not see it sprouting right away, but if you water it, if you nurture it, it will grow. Just keep going, one step at a time. Aarti's eyes filled with tears and she embraced Meera tightly. Thank you, she whispered. I needed to hear that. As the days passed, Aarti found herself reflecting more on Meera's words. She began to pay closer attention to the small blessings in her life: the laughter of children playing outside, the warmth of the sun on her skin, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. Slowly, she realized that while she may not always feel God's presence in the way she expected, He was indeed there, through the people around her, through the world that still turned, through the quiet moments of grace that appeared when she least expected them. Then one evening, a few weeks after writing her letter to God, Arti decided to visit the temple that had been a central part of her family's life. As she entered the peaceful space, she sat down and closed her eyes, offering up a simple prayer. Her heart, once heavy, now felt a little lighter. God, I don't need to understand everything right now, she whispered, but I trust that you will show me the way. I will continue to walk in faith, even when the road seems uncertain. As Arti finished her prayer, a gentle breeze swept through the temple, and she felt a warmth fill her heart. It wasn't an overwhelming, dramatic moment, but in that quiet, simple feeling, Arti knew. She knew that God was with her. She knew that her faith had been planted like a seed, and over time, it would grow into something beautiful. From that day forward, Arti's life changed. It wasn't that her struggles magically disappeared, but her heart was transformed. She learned to trust in God's plan even when she didn't fully understand it. She learned that faith wasn't about having all the answers. It was about trusting that God would guide her step by step through the challenges of life. Aarti's story became one of hope and resilience for those in Suryanagar. People who had once seen her as a young woman struggling with doubt now saw her as a beacon of faith. Her journey wasn't about immediate answers or miraculous events. It was about the quiet, steady trust that God would never leave her, no matter the storm. And though Aarti's letter to God had not received an immediate response in the way she had imagined, it had opened her heart to the truth that God's presence was never far away. It had always been there, waiting for her to recognize it. Faith, she realized, was not about the absence of doubt, but about choosing to trust even in the silence. In the end, Aarti's story was not just one of struggle. It was a story of transformation, of learning to walk in faith, even when the road was long. And it all began with a simple letter to God, a letter that she didn't know would lead to the most profound change in her life. Moral of the story: faith is not always about understanding every detail or receiving immediate answers. It's about trusting in God's plan, even in the silence, and knowing that He is with us every step of the way. Just like a seed planted in the soil, faith requires patience and trust. In time, it grows and transforms our lives even when we cannot yet see the fruits of it.